Rat! Hi, hello, welcome in. How are you doing this evening? Glad you're doing good. I'm doing good. A little tired. Um, we have to go into the office for work every day this week, so that's not fun. But yeah, ew. Um, yeah, they said it's because starting today, Tuesday, is the first week of instruction, but the first day of classes isn't until Thursday. So, like, there is no reason to be on campus. Glad my office is 1,000 miles away. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't know why they're forcing us back to the office as much as they are, but I am not a fan of it. Oh, it's getting cold here too. I have a feeling temp's gonna drop overnight tonight. Alright, we're gonna start up our movie puzzle. Kick off the stream. Um, it's a short name. It's 11 degrees right now. Yeah, it's not that cold here. Uh, yeah, it's probably yeah, it's 60 degrees here right now, but I can tell it's dropping quickly. It'll probably get into the 30s overnight, which is very cold for my area. Um, yeah, I think I know this one. Um, were you saying just for Keira Knightley for Atonement or the end one for the vertical? Yeah. Yeah, once we got E and V, it's pretty obvious what the first name is, and then that limits what the last name is going to be. But yeah, we'll run through it. Um, let's see. Shakespeare in Love. Who else was in that? Because I know, like, Ben Affleck was in it. Josephine? No. Gwyneth Paltrow was in it. I want to say Judi Dench was in it. Um, but none of those fit. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I think it starts with a D, so... Daniel Radcliffe. Hail to the king, baby. Huh. So there should be Leslie Nielsen, right? Oh, I forgot the second L. N-E-E-A. It doesn't matter. Do you know N-I-E-L? Okay. So there's two vowels here. N-I-E-L-S-E-N? Sure. Do you know what this quote is from? Hail to the king, baby. What's happening? Major! Hi, Major. Hello, Raiders. Major with the shout out. Yeah, Major is the best. Welcome in. Hi, hello. Yes, Major Wasia is super dope. Oh, you're also doing writing and reading on stream. That's awesome. What were you up to? Writing our fantasy drama novel, Tenebrious. Nice.
I like this one.
Sorry, this is the first time I'm hearing some of my sound effects. So, yeah, I'm happy they're actually working this time. Yeah, that does sound super awesome. So it's Yunsu 1993. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, for raiding over, and for the follow. And yeah, we like fantasy drama. We're obviously doing something a little different, writing screenplay instead of novel, but yeah, welcome in. Hope you had a great stream. And yeah, we're gonna get into our writing here in a couple minutes. What's our screenplay about? Here, let me finish this puzzle and then we'll switch over to the screenplay stuff and I can kind of go over what we have and where we're going next. Well done. Rad figured it out first. And he got Leslie Nielsen spelled correctly. We were recommended to you by our friend Mariners. Well, thank you, Mariners, for sending him over. Poop cubes. Yeah. Rad and Major got into a conversation last week about poop. Oh, Hail to the King. Yeah, that's Bruce Campbell's from the probably Army of Darkness, but one of the Evil Dead movies. And then Gwyneth Paltrow's name is always longer than I think it is. But yeah, we got everything else right. We got a couple spelling errors, but yeah, it is what it is. All right. So, let's get over to actual writing stuff. Bruce Campbell is such a good actor. Burn Notice was mad. I never got around to watching Burn Notice. Um, but yeah, it's always fun whenever he pops up in something. So yeah, I always like seeing Bruce Campbell. All right. So, where we are at, what we are doing. Major needs another new show to watch all the way through after she finishes up. What are you on, Castle? Are you still going through that one, Major? Um, no, we don't need to go back to that. All right. So, we're on day 4, which is where we're at. Sorry, it's been a long day. I'm not used to having to go to the office on Tuesdays, so um, oh, you just started season 4 of Castle. Nice. So you still got a while to go, because I think that was, what, 7 or 8 seasons, if I remember right? Um, so we had a writing prompt, and I think we've gone kind of away from it quite a bit. Where we are at, uh, 7 or 8 seasons. Hey, at least I didn't say that other number. Um, yeah, we've gotten kind of away from our other thing, but I have ideas, and we're gonna start going through some of those in a bit. But basically, our story. Rad, I should time you out for that. Our story is going to be a kind of historical, through history, romance. Um, we're setting it between two witches. We pick up with them when they first meet in colonial America, and then um, meet with them again at different points in history when they come together again. Um, Part of the reason we wanted to use witches as kind of our main characters is one, the initial writing prompt had something about one of them being a shapeshifter, and so originally we were going to go with just that for one of our characters, but the second reason was we needed to figure out a way if we wanted characters that we were going to meet up with over the course of hundreds of years as we meet them in different time periods, then we would need to have some answer for why they don't age over that time, why they're able to have such long lives. So we kind of settled on witches, and that drew us into, you know, colonial America as kind of the initial setting with the witch trials and how they were demonized by people. And so with our shapeshifter, we decided to kind of streamline everything and make them a witch as well. So I think that's a fairly okay summation of what we've kind of figured out so far. Um, yeah, Major, Rad, let me know if I left out any significant stuff. Very fairly okay, Fiddy. Good job. Thanks, Rad. I appreciate it. Um, so I have lots of thoughts about this, and so we'll kind of start going through some of them, figuring out what's viable in it and what is not. Um, so one of the things I think I figured out is not our shapeshifter, but the other witch. Um, I might need to back up more. Sorry, everything kind of like is connected to something else in a way. So, uh, yeah, we're just gonna. I'm just gonna start talking. We'll figure out where it goes. Keep what's good. Get rid of the rest. Um, So the other witch, the significant other, um, at the beginning, they're with the main character. We need to figure out names too, because I keep not liking having to call them by. Yeah, yeah. We might try to get at least placeholder names by the end of today, because I think some of the stuff that I've thought about can kind of lead us to groups of names, and then we'll see if anything kind of um, sticks. Major, you can't jinx me while I'm streaming, because then I'll just be quiet and. No, Rad. No. Alright. Um, so, the other witch, which I will call her for now until we come up with something else. Um, One of the things I think about her is that she's going to be. Which witch is which? Exactly. She's going to become kind of an activist for witches through what happens in our initial scene of the two witches together, and then the significant other gets hauled away by the hunters and convicted as being a witch, burned at the stake, but she somehow survives. And after she survives, she decides she needs to fight these hunters, but she can't match kind of their firepower or their kind of, I don't want to say strength, but their numbers. Um, she's burnt at the stake and is hunted for it. She's burnt at the stake, she doesn't die, and they eventually figured out that she didn't die. But what she decides to do with her life is try to help other witches from the hunters. Did I miss something? Which witch is which? Is there a sandwich? uh, oh, she burnt the steak, not burnt at the. So Rad wants a steak sandwich, is what he's saying. There's probably a better word for than witch activist. Um, okay, so that's something I figured out about this character, and that would kind of explain when we meet up with her through points in history what she's going to be doing, right? And so, tied in with all of this, kind of an overarching theme that I think fits in um, is kind of an exploration of American history and some of the prejudices that American, especially government agents, have had um, throughout the history. Because I think inherent to witches is obviously like the witch trials and how easy it was to say, oh, she's a witch, and have someone um, basically killed just on someone's word. And I think that shows up at different times throughout American history, with groups being othered, being ostracized by the government and by um, or kind of the um, majority, we'll say. And it's basically every group has had to face this at some point throughout history. Originally I thought maybe we go directly to show these moments in American history, but I think that might clash with the story we're trying to tell. So instead of saying like directly we show them at World War II while Japanese Americans are being interned, we have that kind of idea of we're going to show, witches being rounded up and this character of the activist trying to help them escape. So it's going to be using witches as stand-ins for groups that have been targeted throughout American history. We are not including Velveeta. Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. We're not going to directly go into like the family separation and, what's happening with ICE and all that stuff right now. But we can use what's happening to immigrants right now in America and trace that onto our witch characters and explore what's happening now through telling their story about witches and how they would react to it. Does that make sense? Yeah, we are obviously not including him in that. Rad is an orange blob. Purple blob. Hype block. So we're not going to use those specifically, but as we meet up with them through history, we'll use examples of real prejudices in American history to have our witches go through to reflect it back. So a lot of the story is going to end up being about American history, how Americans treat groups that they other, but at the end, I always like an up ending. So I think it needs to end with a sense of hope that the witches will be able to live in peace. So that's kind of a broader, bigger thing that I want to try to incorporate in it as we go. Okay. I hope that all makes sense. And then I thought about this question that I had kind of at the end of last week, or I might have written after we finished. When we first meet them at the start, I think they don't know the other is a witch. No. Vidsy! Hi, hello, welcome in. How are you doing today, Vidsy? What story did you all decide on? You're out during last stream. You're good. Good. Glad you're good. So we decided on the shapeshifter one, but we've changed a lot so far. Yeah, and just kind of some of it is just trying to streamline some of the stuff. And some of it is just trying to figure out an interesting way to tell the story. So, yeah. All right. So we have for setting. Um, points. Our settings are going to be points in American history. Um, how do I want to phrase this? Mm, of groups being targeted. Yeah. Points in American history of groups of quote unquote others being targeted. Because I think the witches are an obvious stand in for any group of others. Yes. Alright. Now, back to our characters. So, last time when we were talking about them, one of the things that we brought up is kind of where they originally came from. And I think they both came from Europe in some way. But one thing I wanted to look up was kind of where in Europe did the early colonial settlers in America come from? Because I think that will help narrow exactly where each of them came from. So, where in Europe did early American settlers come from? Alright, so after Christopher Columbus, so during this time, European colonial empires of Spain, Portugal, Great Britain, France, Russia, Netherlands, Denmark, and Sweden began to explore and claim the Americas. Yeah, and we also have the indigenous peoples of Americas that we could use as one of our examples. So following the Black Death, within a century, the Swedish established New Sweden, the Dutch established New Netherland, and Denmark, Norway, along with the Swedish and Dutch established colonial parts of the Caribbean. Okay, so it's a lot of the countries we kind of assumed. So, what did we say? Okay, so Swedish and the Dutch. So, sweet. Alright, so for our characters, we have to choose from Spain, Portugal, Great Britain, France, Russia, the Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden. So I'd say not Denmark. Sweden. Alright, so we got some different choices for where our characters can come from. Get out of here with that. Okay. We also have Norse Vikings. See, more of what I want to know is kind of what was happening in the European countries. So Spain was definitely much more southern. The French got more inland. In the British. Yeah, I think we end up just going French and British. Which is kind of where we were at, what we thought last time. Okay. French names. 1500s. See if anything comes up for that. There's a subreddit called Name Nerds. If you're thinking a location, it could be New England area of the East Coast. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking for the initial setting. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. English. Ah, messes them up when we do that. But not be in Salem, they can be a faction. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and even with, like you said, the Salem witch trials, we don't want to do exactly that because that's something that, happened. But we want to use it as kind of, these kind of things were happening more broadly. We got a whole lot of names. All right, here, let's zoom in so we can see this better. So some French names that we can pick from. Let's see, we got Isabel, Elizabeth. I'm not going to do all these in a French accent. Marguerite, Marie, Helene, Catherine. Don't know how to say that one. Top 5, then we roll the dice for the names? Yeah, we could do, top 6. Major likes Helene. Alright, we'll put that on the list. Alright, Helene is on the list. Catherine. Guillaume? I don't know. Claudine. Anne. Jacqueline. Louise. Charlotte. Eleanor. Okay. Eleanor. Leonore. Eleanor. Anderite. Blanche. Yolanda. Adelaide? Question mark? I am butchering these names, I have a feeling. Not my strong suit. Mathilde, Constance, Elise, Elix, Antoinette, Madeline. Yeah, we're not doing Antoinette. Francois. I always get this one because it's not Francois because that's the male version. Clemence, Agnes, Suzanne, Charlotte, Martha, Christine. Beatrice. Here, I'll leave this up for a minute. I gotta step away for a sec, so I'll be right back. Major, make sure Rad doesn't do anything too crazy. Yeah, keep your eyes on him, Major. Um, okay. So through this list, were there any others that anyone spotted that they liked that we want to add to the list? Or do we just say we all like Helene and stick with that? All right. Vidsy and Major have spoken. All right. We'll do same thing for English names. Oh no, that's going to be way too many to pick from. Once again, way too many. Um, okay. So we have medieval England feminine names. So this is going to be for our shapeshifter. There's a chance they end up changing their name throughout it, but we want to at least know what their initial name is or what their real name is if they end up changing it. All these are just like... Yeah, they'll probably have to do a name change. So let's see. I'm going to be just as bad at these names as I was with the French ones. Let's see, we have Aldith, Aldrea, Aldreda, if I can actually say the letters that are in it. Aldous. Okay, this doesn't have the one that says how to say it. Yeah, that's something we can definitely try to do. Let's see if any of these kind of fit into that. Malay, Made, Meggie, Malay. Medieval English is weird. That's what I figured out. Code me. Meh. Alright, does this have a filter? No. Why would it have a filter? Reddit. You like Maggie as a nickname. Okay. By Hufflepuffer. So we know this is legit. Okay, so this is good. This is kind of what Vizzy was talking about. So the original name and then um, variants on it. So let's see if Maggie shows up on here. So what would Maggie be a nickname for? Would it be Margaret? Margaret or Magdalena or something. Okay. Sorry, it was hard carrying in 40s. Like you do. Major always hard carries in Fortnite. So we could do something like Madeline. No. Poopaline. Thanks, Red. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like which names we could have the most variations on. I think it might be Madeline. Because we'll have Madeline. We could probably use Maggie with that. Um, this one has Maud. And then like Maddie. So that gives us 4. Annabelle could be a good name for a shapeshifter. Annabelle, Anna, Annie. Annabelle, 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 Hannibal, Hannibal, Annabella, Annabilia, Hannabella. Annabella. Sounds like an L. Yeah. Ah, Major. Thank you, Major, for the gifted sub to Miss Shadow 69. Yep. Thank you. Didn't play the subscription. Played all the other ones though. Beatrice is another good one. Beatrixie, Bartholomew. Helene and blank is the real struggle. Yeah. Yeah, the only thing is I try when coming up with character names and make sure, and this is fairly common in a lot of writing and screenwriting, is trying to not have characters with one similar sounding names or two having like the same first letter of their name. Uh, Ursa. No. Okay, so the two major liked were Annabelle and Beatrice. That variation. Alright, so Beatrice is feminine, Italian, English, Swedish, Romanian. Sage! Hi, hello, welcome in. Uh, we're trying to pick some sort of name for our main characters because I got tired of calling them by kind of voyage traveler, which, yeah, if our character is going to be going throughout history, then traveler works. We got into a witch, yeah. Female one and female one, Sage. Blessed, happy, Beatrix or Beatrix. Uh, Okay. Oh. So form of Annabelle. Okay, what does Anna mean? Form of Hannah. I don't know. Between Annabelle and Beatrix, I would say Beatrix fits better. But I still don't know if that's quite right. Yep, we always go to baby name sites because that's where we end up finding the most useful stuff, actually. Oh, these are kind of all over the place. Latin, Italian, Spanish. What genre of people's names? So our main character is going to be from England from the 1500s. So English, yes. So the top 50 women's names listed by Scott Smith Bannister for the 1560s, 50s. And other. Oh, the other one we have a name. They are. Yeah, the other one is French, and we decided on the name Helene for her. Yes. Let's see, Elizabeth Joan. Okay. Margaret, Agnes, Alice, Anne, Mary, Jane, Catherine, Eleanor, Isabel, Dorothy. What's the main premise? Colonial America, two women meet, fall in love, but then are torn apart because one is accused of being a witch. Years later, unbeknownst to both of them, they reconnect. What's the main premise of the story? What does our English girl do? Yeah, so she came to America from Britain during the 1500s. Um, Met the French girl. French girl, as far as she knows, was killed for being a witch. Um, the English girl was a witch and went on the run and changed her face. Um, and then we pick up with her at another point in history when she thinks she found someone who looks like the French girl again. And tries to find her. So we need witchy names. Kind of, but not necessarily. We're not using Agatha or Wanda. Nor Winifred. 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 Yeah. Wow, no way, copyright. You like Judith? And then another wrinkle that Vidsy threw in is because our English witch is going to change her face a couple times, that she will also likely change her name but keep something similar. So we're also trying to look for a name that can have different variations when we meet the character throughout different times. So I think that's why Major was going with Annabelle and Beatrice, because they have um, lots of different ways they can break the name. You like the th sound? Could be Edith at one point. Oh, that's where Major was finding that from. Um, Variation on Edith. Yeti. Let's see. Oh, those are surnames. This is my homie, Yedidiah. Yeti could be a cute nickname. If it didn't sound like, Yeti, the Abominable Snowman. Elizabeth, Jane, Anne, etc. Agnes, Alice, Ellen, Margaret, Mary, Catherine, Marjorie, Frances. I always want to say Cecily, but I know that's not wrong. That's not right. It's wrong. That it's that's your own personal thing, but they should have almost no impact in the 1500s. Say silly? Yeah, Cecily. Cecily. Terrible with that, with names. Isabel, Dorothy, Mathilda, Susan, Susanna. Don't ask me how to pronounce that. No. Like in Seth. Silly. That's the best you're gonna get. Thomasin, Grace, Barbara, Christina, Emma, Hannah, Joyce, Jocelyn. Let's see, Martha. Major likes Thomasin. This one's Sarah. Ingrid, Beatrix, Blanche. Her nickname could be Tommy. Yeah. Bridget, Clementia, Audrey, Jennifer. Kinber? I feel like this is a super modern version of like someone trying to be hip of a new spelling of like Kimberly. Kymburghlei. Would she be the butch? Oh, this is a Mormon spelling. Patience, Philippa, Protasia. Okay. So Major likes Thomason. A-Y and Burr, yeah. Alright, so we got Thomasia, Thomasine, Thomasin, Thompson, Tamsin, Thomasina. Tamlin is a hard pass. Boo, Tamlin. Okay. Feel like I had a nerve somewhere on there. We will not use that. A Court of Thorns. Oh, okay. It's a book character. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh, I feel less awkward now. I was just hoping it wasn't like a real person that y'all had some beef with or something. He's just a piece of. Okay. Well, yeah. Boo, Tamlin. Um. So Thomasin is a derivative of Thomas, meaning twin. He's just a piece of work. So Major, you like the Thomasin with a Z? Thomason. Taste isn't bad. Oh, up here. Where does this come from? Hungarian rare. It's a form of Teresa. Could mean summer in Greek, or to harvest. What's 1, 2, 3? That's 4 different ones. Margaret. I think Margaret would fit. Yeah. Yeah, there's a British English version, means pearl in the original Latin Greek. Well, I feel like if they were Margaret, Maggie could be a nickname that they take. I apparently hit my caps locks. Annabelle. Thomazin. Then Beatrice. Okay, so let's see. Helene and Margaret, Helene and Annabelle, Helene and Thomasin, Helene and Beatrice. Sage votes for Maggie or Beatrice. Okay. Margaret/Maggie. Man. The stuff that exists on the internet. Ugh, no. Eleanor? No. Isabel. Alright. Yeah, I feel like just going down a rabbit hole at this time, at this point. close out all those. All right. Sage votes for that. So Alice. Oh, we're going down a rabbit hole. Yeah. Alice is also a name that would work. Let's see. I think for now at least we'll go with, yeah, Margaret, and then she will eventually be also Maggie. And we can change it if we figure out something else that we like better. So we have Margaret and Helene. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, yeah, that all works. This is one question I've been trying to figure out an answer to as well. Sorry, my mind bounces all over the place. We just kind of jump around. It's fine. It happens. Um, so I have kind of like a rough idea of what I want. Probably the first scene, or the first section of it to look like. And I've also been struggling trying to figure out like what's the best plot structure way to structure this story, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So what I'm thinking for this initial scene is hmm. Yeah, I always think it's best to pick up characters as close to a moment of crisis as possible. So we would have Margaret and Helene together. We're in colonial America, and I think they need to be out away from the settlement? Yeah. So they're either in the forest, on the coast, in a field, somewhere away from other people. They just want to be alone and together. Then we have to have something happen where one of them has to physically create distance with the other. Not like they have a fight, but rather like one has to go get something. Like something to just create physical space between them. Because that's when we want the hunters to show up. Because that's how it always works. Pull the curtain back. That's how it always works in movies. When your characters are at their most happy, that's when you want them to face their greatest threats. And like that's why one of the tricks, if you want to know how to predict who's about to die in a movie, it's always a person who's planning for the future. right? So if you have a group of like 5 people going into a battle at the end of a movie, and one of them's like, "Man, after this, I'm finally gonna do blah 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 blah," they're most likely dying. Um, anyway, so we want to show who they are to each other and in the world that we're establishing, and then we want conflict to come in the form of the hunters. Um, the reason the two have to be physically apart is the hunters need to only capture one of them, Helene, right? So they capture her, and then my question is, if she's a witch, why doesn't she immediately escape? One of the reasons that I came up with is either these witches aren't super powerful, they're more like earth hippie witches. The other thing is that the hunters have some protection against witchcraft. Which I'm kind of leaning towards the hunters have some protection against witchcraft, which would make them more threatening, which is ultimately what we want them to be. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it has to be. So the hunters show up, they capture Helene, and that's when Margaret has to fail to act. Because at this point, we're playing this like it's set in our normal world. And we're not tipping our hand that either of them are witches in the initial scene. So when one is captured and they say, you know, you're a witch, you're coming with us to be tried as a witch, the other one. So then why wouldn't Margaret do anything? Because she knows they have protection from witchcraft, so in there has to be more of them. And so she's scared of being discovered as a witch. Okay, yeah, so she thinks they came there to get her, but they end up getting Helene instead. And so Margaret runs away. And she doesn't see Helene being tied up, all that stuff, at the stake. And then from a distance, she has to see the fire. And then the following morning is when the first time she decides to change her face. Her first time shapeshifting. And then what we don't see initially, but we come back to sometime later, is Helene surviving the attempted burning at the stake. Does that all make sense? Makes sense to me. I think that makes sense. Yes. What am I looking for? Bullet points. Okay. So now I need to write all this out so I can remember it. So I'm putting this under our outline. It's not necessarily going to be the first sequence that happens in the movie, but it is a sequence that needs to be in the movie. Colonial America. Let's zoom in. It's easier to see. I don't like having a character with accents in their name, but they have them, so it'll be what it is. G-A-R-E-T. Margaret and Helene. Alright, so if they're away from their village, where do they go? So they could go into the forest. They could go to the beach, coast, or a lake. I think going somewhere with water makes more sense. Because wasn't one of the, like, trials for how they would figure out if someone was a witch was whether they floated in water? Well, yes it was. Okay. So, Margaret and Helene, so that means ocean, lake, river. I would say lake. Go to a lake. Alright, Colonial America, Margaret and Helene go to a lake short distance from the settlement to be alone with one another because they have fallen in love. So the other reason going to a lake could help is one of them could be fine about getting in the water and the other is hesitant, and that's what creates what we need in that physical distance between them when the hunters show up. So that means Helene would be more of a free spirit, and she would go into the water. I'm hitting all types of random keys. It is whatever. This is why I'm terrible at video games. I just hit random shit all the time. Helene enters the water. Comfortable with it. But Margaret is hesitant. Okay, so then Helene tries to convince Margaret to join her. But Margaret leaves. So then Helene exits the water to go after Margaret, but can't find her. That's when the hunters show up, surround Helene. Lorenzo DeBoss. Hi, hello, welcome in. Fellow screenwriter here? Nice! What kind of stuff do you like to write? So the hunters show up, surround Helene. At a distance, Margaret sees this play out. Writing a psychological horror TV show based on a very popular Japanese horror visual novel. Obviously not copywriting it, but more inspired and Americanizing it. Nice. Yeah, I've written some stuff based on existing IP. A bunch of years ago, I wrote a version of the Zatanna story, the character from DC Comics, and like I knew that was never going to become a movie or become anything, but I mean, sometimes just writing out the ideas you have, anytime you write, it's practice and good practice, and hopefully you're able to learn things that you can use on other stuff that you work on. So I think anytime you want to write something is always a good thing. The property in question is Higarashi When They Cry. Feel free to search it up. I might look it up. I have a whole bunch of stuff. Visual novel on my watch list right now, but yeah, I'll take a look and see what it's all about. Okay, right, where were we? It's a visual novel and anime. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know some of the other communities that I hang out in. Um, one of the video games I play is Genshin Impact, and so a lot of the players of that game are anime fans as well. So I'm sure they will be interested as well for something good to check out. Okay. Hunters show up, surround Helene at a distance. Margaret sees this play out. Um, Hunters accuse Helene of being a witch. And take her prisoner. Um, so this is where we have to think about the medium, because if this was a book, we could just be inside Margaret's head and say she realizes that the hunters are actually looking for her. And we can have her say that later, but in the moment here, Margaret just has to be kind of terrified. Yeah. So Margaret is terrified, thinking the hunters are really after her, so she runs away. Yeah, she has to be conflicted. Because she wants to help, but she has to make the wrong choice here. Visual novel and anime are both known for intense violence. I fully intend to keep the spirit. Yeah, lots of action scenes can be very difficult. Um, yeah, I've written a lot of action scenes and trying to keep each of them fresh and have something unique in them and try to do something that you haven't seen before is always a good test for yourself as a writer, of always trying to make sure you're trying to do something new and not just, riffs on picking things from here and there that you've seen before. Because especially early on when I started writing, like that's kind of what I would do. I would kind of pull stuff from here and there that I liked and kind of make a Frankenstein's monster of action scenes. But yeah. So it's a fight or flight situation. Yeah, yeah, I think it is. Like yeah, it needs to have weight, and she has to be internally conflicted about it. Because if it was obvious what she should do, then there's no drama in it. And we need to have an almost balanced choice and for her to choose wrong. And Maggie bails, but she knows it's a coward's choice as soon as she makes it. I don't think she knows it as soon as she makes it. I think it's something she rationalizes to herself, and over time she realizes what she did. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Um, so Margaret's terrified, thinking that after she's conflicted, she runs away. The hunters return to their settlement with Helene. All the letters are in the wrong spot. Begin. Um, so the hunters return to a settlement with Helene and prepare to burn her at the stake for being a witch. Um, so the people of the settlement question but don't resist. So that night, Margaret has escaped to mountain slash ridge, whatever. That overlooks the settlement. She sees the fire ignite at the center of town, center of the settlement. And yeah, she knows what's happening. She sees the fire ignite at the center of the settlement. She's heartbroken. She thinks it's her fault. Then the next morning, she wakes, not makes. She wakes near a pond. She sees, not she she's. So the next morning she wakes near a pond. She looks into the water surface and sees her reflection. And that's when she decides to alter her face. shapeshift. Um, yeah. When I started thinking about this and how it would look, the changing of her face, I want it to be like, which one was it? American Werewolf in Paris? Like, I want to hear, like, bones cracking, and I want it to look like it's painful for her to do. Johnu! Hi, hello, welcome in. I saw you were streaming earlier, but I was on my way out from work. Hope it went well. Alright, so I think this is a building block sequence. I think this starts moving a lot of things where we want them. Stream. Okay, your stream went fantastic. Nice. Glad to hear it. How's the story? Story's going good. Um, we figured out some more things about where we want the story to go. We figured out names, temporary or permanent, for some of the characters, and um, just kind of went through a scene that kind of sets a lot of our story in motion. I'm still not 100% if I want this to be the first scene or not. I kind of like it as a first scene just because it does a lot of things we need early on. I just worry that it gives too much away. I don't know. I don't know. It's something we'll figure out as we start laying out some other sequences. Yeah. I think that all works at least so far. Fiddlesticks, fading fast, need head to bed, catch you later, buddy. Alright, yeah, I think hitting the end of that sequence is probably a good place to wrap it up for today. So I think, yeah, we might be finishing upstream here. Yeah, we got through a lot of the ideas, questions, things I wanted to get to today, so I feel like we made some progress, which is always great. Yeah, Major, if you need to head to bed, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you always, and thank you for gifting the sub. Let's see if anyone's streaming. Oh, Shay's still streaming. Let's see if we can actually do a raid. How do we raid? Slash raid? I'm probably gonna mess up the raid, but hey, we'll try. Alright. Alright, yeah, we'll raid over to another streamer, Shay. She was playing Dead by Daylight earlier. She's now doing Quarantine Zone. Yeah, I met her playing Rivals. She's super cool. Yeah, she's vet, emergency vet tech. So yeah, she has a lot of animals, and she's cool. And yeah, we'll go over there, say hi, hang out there. Um, yeah, thank you everyone who stopped by, hung out. We had the raid, we had a couple new people stopping by and saying hi, so thank you all. Um, Major, as always, for everything you do. I appreciate you. You're the best. Uh, we will be back Thursday around the same time. Hope I can see all y'all there. And yeah, as Janu said, get some good rest and have a good week. And I will be back on Thursday. Till then, see y'all later. Bye.
These people turn into a zombie soon. It's over. Aw, 54! Oh my god, how did your stream go?
I feel okay.
Thank you so much for the raid. How are you doing? Thank you so much for choosing to raid me. If you guys don't know 54, definitely go check him out.